Jersey, the ring of slot machines gives way to the roar of engines as the best in the world of offshore powerboat racing challenge the defending champion Don Johnson in the World Offshore Powerboat Racing Championships, the biggest jackpot of them all.
The following program is pre-recorded.
Welcome to a world of jackpot dreams, of 3,000 horsepower million-dollar racing machines, of laying it all on the line, of celebrating with fine sparkling wine, of big money, and even bigger stars, from perfect tens to first and tens, from beautiful American smiles to champions at 500 miles, from Monaco's princess to titans of business, all in Atlantic City to see the superstars of offshore powerboat racing.
Why are you going to go out there and risk all that going 130 miles an hour on the ocean? I don't do it because I've got a death wish or anything like that. I also like competing.
He's got a lot of courage to be sitting in that engine, because essentially he's sitting on a group of engines that are pieced together by steel. I don't know why he wants to do this.
Boat racing, speed on the water. The fascination begins when we're just kids and race one of these from the soap dish to the end of the tub. Well, when some kids grow up, their boats just get a lot bigger, a lot faster, and the tub becomes the whole ocean. Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Lewis. Welcome aboard the Trump Princess off of Atlantic City, New Jersey for the World Offshore Powerboat Racing Championships. And working with me, a man from a different side of the speed world, 1983 Indianapolis 500 winner Tom Sneva. Can you compare these two sports, boats and cars?
Well, yes, you can. There's a lot of similarities. You have the competition, the concentration it takes to be competitive at these speeds and in these conditions. But more importantly, you have the speed. 200 miles an hour at Indianapolis on a smooth asphalt surface is nothing compared to over 100 miles an hour in the high seas. The guy that can anticipate or predict what's going to be there before he gets to it is the guy that's going to run up front.
A day of surprises as the best in the world in the fastest boats in the world try to take the title away from the defending champion, Don Johnson. Don Johnson drives the newest superboat catamaran, Team USA, with designer John Sadowski navigating and 25-year veteran Richie Powers at the throttles.
Little Ceasars, a 47-foot V-hull superboat with Pete Markey at the wheel, Trace Martin on the throttle. They placed second 5 times this year.
RDS, in these rough seas, this V-hull is a formidable contender. Driver Steve Baldwin, throttleman Keith Hazel, and navigator Gary Smith have placed no less than 3rd this year.
And the pre-race favorite, the Gentry Turbo Ego, 6 wins in '89 for driver Charles Marks.
And now it's race time. More than 30,000 horsepower rumbling in the milling area as we look at the rest of the superboat field for this final day of racing. There's the pace boat. The yellow flag will drop as soon as everyone's aligned side by side and moving toward the start. Let's go inside Don Johnson's boat.
All right, we're clear. Go, baby.
The red buoy marks the start-finish line, and this race has begun. The all-white Gentry Turbo takes the lead, 3,600 horsepower, skipping over this ocean.
With all the boats bunched together, out front's the place to be. Smoother water and a clear vision of the ocean conditions ahead.
Smooth water, but it's still a bumpy ride for the V-hulled RDS as it tries to hold off Don Johnson's Team USA in the race for third place. Little Ceasars right now, another V-hull, is in second position, but these superboats still have 100 miles to go.
This is NBC's Sports World, and today it's brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Castrol, engineered for today's smaller cars. And by Ford Motorcraft. Get the peace of mind of doing it right with the right parts. Motorcraft quality parts.
Gotham Corner Store? Yes, we seem to be down to our last Diet Coke. A gentleman is on his way to pick some up. Just look for a black car. And by the way, the gentleman is usually in quite a rush.
Just for the taste of it, Diet Coke.
Batman's in a rush, all right. He's already out on video cassette. Catch Batman now at a special low price.
I feel awkward.
Welcome back to Atlantic City. Greg Lewis along with Tom Sneva at the World Offshore Powerboat Championships. As the superboat class speeds out toward turn one in this 100-mile race, the Gentry Turbo Eagle with national champion Charles Marks driving holds the lead.
Don Johnson's Team USA in the foreground, still side by side. Great racing with Steve Baldwin in RDS at more than 100 miles an hour.
And now in second place, it's Chris Lavin driving Jesse James. And Tom, the Wild West image is fitting because this is 3,000 horsepower bucking in an open ocean rodeo. And look at this. Here comes Don Johnson's Team USA alongside to challenge for second.
It's a new boat, and they're probably starting to get the feel of what it can and can't do.
On the way to turn one, Team USA making its debut this week, chasing the national champion who's built a season of victories with a high-tech boat and engines designed by Tom Gentry. And what has Tom Gentry accomplished as a competitor?
From a record point of view, we own Miami-Nassau, Miami. We own Miami-New York. We own, which is a Chapman Trophy. We own the Transatlantic. That's 4,000 or 3,500 miles of Atlantic Ocean, and that's an endurance event. We had a pretty good run there. We broke it by about 25%. We broke the world's ocean speed record by about 23, 24%. And I think those are significant margins and worthy of our crew's attention to new development and detail.
And today, Gentry hopes to own the World Superboat Championship, but so does the man who invented this class in 1983, Popeye's Chicken King, Al Copeland.
Popeye's was the first one ever built. And that's how it began. And since then, it's evolved to that. And now I'm delighted to see 11 boats racing in the superboat class. It's a big fleet.
Copeland drove to 5 consecutive Superboat National Championships, and now it's challenging Don Johnson and Team USA for 4th at the first turn.
Turn one leads the open ocean and rougher seas ahead. The experience of offshore racing comes in now. How hard to run the boat and not tear up the equipment.
At Indy, Tom, you were the only man in the cockpit, so to speak. Here, most of the boats have 3 men in the cockpit. Popeye's has 2. Could you imagine ever sharing the throttle or the gas pedal with someone else?
Well, not in the race car, but in these boats, with these kinds of track conditions that these boys face, one guy can't handle it all.
Little Ceasars in second place, a battle between 2 V-hulls. RDS is in third, right alongside, and then it's Team USA flying over the water.
Baby's working well in these waves.
Waves that stretch for more than 100 miles.
Greg, really 4 times around what they refer to as their storm course, a shorter stadium-type course closer to shore because of the conditions of the ocean today. It's a 25-mile oval track with long straightaways and tight corners.
And here's the scoring system. In addition, each boat gets a single point for every boat it beats. Normally, the World Championships comprises 3 races, but bad weather has changed the '89 event to just 2 races. Total combined points determines the overall winner in 9 different classes. The largest, they're starting right now, the UIM Open class with competitors from North America, Europe, and Asia.
Now with the open boats on their way to 100 miles an hour, there's a lot more traffic on this race course.
Open boats and super boats on the course at the same time, but they're all behind the Gentry Eagle.
Well, Greg, he's built up a large lead, but I'm not sure he can sustain it. It's a tough sea out there.
Catamarans today leading the V-hulls. But it was a different story earlier this week when an Atlantic storm churned up 12-foot waves during the first race of these World Championships.
V-hulls are able to cut through the waves, whereas the faster cats with the winged area for more lift and less drag lose their stability in these kinds of waters.
Several boats were beaten up in race number 1. The ferocious sea would ultimately rip a hatch cover off Team USA in its maiden voyage and force Don Johnson out.
The surprise winner of the first Superboat race, Steve Baldwin's RDS, in its first victory of the season.
And in the UIM Open class, Joe Mach, driving a boat called Dirty Laundry, survived an ocean churning like a washing machine to win race 1.
But only because Monaco's Gancia de Gancia, who finished first, was disqualified for missing a buoy.
America's highly touted System 7 with space-age design took a bath, literally. Bob Kaiser's boat was flooded en route to the start. Others fought the sea like a hooked marlin.
This was a day when the so-called ultimate boats of new design couldn't surpass the reliability of the V-hulls.
Yet for Gancia de Gancia's dashing Stefano Casaraghi, the waves weren't even intimidating.
In Europe, we race all the time with very rough sea, and we have a boat prepared for rough sea.
For the Italians, bruises and bumps seemed just part of a day's work. But as the race week continued, the weather went from bad to worse, and even the Italians were daunted. The weather is so fierce here, even in the so-called sheltered area of the marina, that only one foolish seabird and one foolish announcer have dared to come out. The wind is blowing the rain horizontally, and my feeble little umbrella, well, we tried it. You can imagine what the weather is like out there on the open ocean. Thursday's seas bashed the coast with 15-foot waves, canceling the race. But today, the sun rose in a clear sky over a calmer sea.
Greg, I'd say calm is a very relative term in offshore powerboat racing.
And Tom, there's nothing calm about this fight for third place. Team USA and RDS side by side on the Atlantic Ocean. In second place, Little Ceasars still kicking over the waves, but no one is yet to catch Charles Marks. We'll be back.
For a bear of a thirst, I reach for it first.
Back in Atlantic City for more superboat racing. The leader, it is still the Gentry Eagle with Charles Marks driving. He's a man who has a vision of victory.
I can honestly say, aside from the consistency of my engines, that I ran with the best and I beat them.
In second, Pete Markey and Little Ceasars. He's equally competent.
Barring any engine failure, that we're going to win, period. So those are pretty strong words, but those are awful big waves out there.
And now in third place, it's RDS and Steve Baldwin, who has his own game plan.
We're going to get out in the lead and stay in the lead. If we don't do that, we're going to hunt them down one at a time. But we're going to try our best to win.
As you can see, all these leaders have the confidence in their equipment, but more importantly, the confidence in themselves to get the job done.
But let's not forget Don Johnson in fourth. He loves the sport. He talked to Ahmad Rashad earlier this week.
I like the idea of man and machine out there competing against other men and other machines, and that sense of challenge. And also for me, it's like it's rather than it being a tempting death or anything, I look at it more as like embracing life and an expression of living.
What makes a good driver?
Calm. You can't overreact out there. You have to be focused and attentive and not let any situation get out of hand. There's a lot of things you can do wrong and only one thing you can do right. And the one thing that you should do right is just to stay focused, concentrated, and relax into it.
Now, there's two sides of this. Because you are involved in the sport and because of your celebrity, now all of a sudden this sport has a high profile. But on the other side of that, do you find that the other drivers want to show you that, hey, celebrity means nothing when it comes here, you got to drive?
There is a certain amount of that, but I like that. That adds a competitive edge to it that I think is, I find that exciting, you know, because if they're aware of it, that's their problem or their thing, because I'm not. I'm out here racing just like anybody else. I was happy, and I'm happy to use whatever celebrity I have to bring some notoriety and some focus to a sport that I think is just a great sport.
Now, last year, you came into the World Championship and snuck off with the prize. This year, you can't sneak in here. Everybody knows about you. Feel a little bit of pressure?
Well, yeah, there's a little bit of I mean, first of all, there's a sense of pride about having it, you know. Had I not won, I wouldn't feel that way, but now that I've won, I want to keep it.
Well, it's obvious he loves this sport.
Yeah, I understand he got his start by doing his own stunts on the Miami Vice Series.
And his throttle man, Richie Power, says he's a real natural, and look at this, obviously aggressive.
Yeah, he almost stood her on end there, Greg, but he is concerned about the safety aspects as well as the sport is. One of the procedures each driver has to go through every year is the dunk test.
For everyone in this sport, the danger is very real. For former national champion Bob Kaiser, it's the source of haunting memories.
Well, it's hard to deal with because I've lost about 3 friends, and I think we've had 13 or 14 casualties here in the last 3 or 4 years. But with that, you have to learn with what happened to the other drivers, and therefore you have to try to use that to my best of my ability to protect myself, and hopefully that we're a leader in the sports and everybody else tries to, you know, follow our safety arrangement with our F-16 canopies and our restraint systems and our oxygen supply and so forth. We learn from other people's mistakes. Unfortunately, they are fatalities.
And yet these men will risk everything to win, to push a boat until it flies in the face of danger. In the UIM Open class, that danger is being surmounted by Monaco's Stefano Casaraghi, the leader in Gancia de Gancia. In second, it's Italy's Achille Motors, with its compatriot boat, Loro Piana, in third. But danger set a lethal trap in the UIM 2 class here when the catamaran team skater gouged a wave, rose suddenly, uncontrollably, and flipped. Its driver, the reigning national champ, 37-year-old Kevin Brown, died instantly of massive head injuries. Throttleman James Dykes was hospitalized, but not seriously injured. In motorsports, tragedy strikes without conscience, and it is only vanquished if the race continues on.
For the fire, for the drive, for pushing hard, each time you try, for the hero staying true, for the team for coming through, this one's for you.
She's won 4 consecutive world titles and 11 world championships. She's Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser.
This one's for you.
Exotic alloys, complex designs. Today's automobile engines are marvels of power and efficiency. But at a price, they generate more of the damaging filth called sludge. Yesterday's motor oils aren't the answer. Today, what's required is a motor oil specifically formulated to virtually eliminate sludge. Haviland's superior grade.
Continues in the Superboat World Championships along the coastline of Atlantic City. And in 4th place, it's Team USA. Don Johnson now really pushing this boat to try to catch up on the leaders.
Something happened on that right flap.
The throttle man, again, concerned about some kind of problem. You can see Don Johnson having to fight the wheel a lot harder. It's critical, the communication these two must have back and forth with each other.
Charles Mark still in the lead. On this same course a year ago, he won his first national championship. Little Caesars, Pete Markey, trying to chase him down. And then in third, it's RDS and Stephen Baldwin.
Well, Greg, it looks like the problem is put Team USA out of the race.
And that'll be disheartening news for the host of this event, Donald Trump. When I talked to him earlier, I found out how much he really likes this sport. There's been a lot of talk in Atlantic City these last few days by racers who say they've got the ultimate boat. But I'd have to say the Trump Princess is the ultimate boat.
Does your affection for the Princess also translate to an interest in
the kind of boats we're seeing in the offshore racing?
Well, they're very exciting, Greg, and it's going to be a great day, and it really does. I love boats. I've always loved boats.
Do you think there's some kinship between you and these drivers? After all, they take risks on the open ocean. You take risks on the high seas of finance and big business. Is there some common ground there?
I guess there is. I mean, it's one is a mental thing, and I guess the other is a physical and a mental thing. But I would think there's a kinship, and a lot of these people that are doing the boats and you know, the courageous sailors, as I call them, they are really very successful businessmen.
And these boats are toys for them. You know what's coming with the question here.
I know. No, I think I love watching it. I think it's a fabulous sport to watch. As far as sitting in the boat, I'd rather watch. I'd rather be right here sitting on the deck and watching the race. I think it's there's a great deal of courage or insanity or something that you need to do this successfully, and I'm not sure I qualify for that.
I'd have to disagree with Donald Trump's analogy there of insanity. I think the common denominator for all these drivers is realizing not only the limits of your equipment, but also of yourself.
And those who do have the skill and courage are competitors who come from all over the world to compete in the UIM classes, from Australia, Great Britain, Japan, Europe, and the U.S.
The UIM boats are not different from the super boats in length or style, but they're restricted in the engine department. 1,000 cubic inches on gasoline or 2,000 cubic inches on diesel.
And that's enough muscle to push a boat at more than 100 miles per hour across the water. But it wasn't enough for some Americans who wanted unlimited power supplies. They branched off and formed the superboat class, which Charles Marks has been leading for 90 miles, but suddenly Pete Markey and Little Ceasars has pulled alongside. Either Marks has got a problem or Little Ceasars has suddenly found new power, Tommy.
Well, I think it's Marks' problem. He ran so strong early, but it looks like he might have pushed it too hard.
Little Ceasars, this season, 5 times second as they come around the final buoy. Their first victory of the year is within their grasp. They cannot believe it. And now the navigator's looking back, and RDS is also passing Charles Marks. There is complete disbelief in this crew and elation that victory may be theirs just ahead.
It's that fine balance, and it looks like Little Ceasars has found it between speed and reliability.
The tortoise and the hare, only the tortoise goes 100 miles an hour in this sport. And now the Gentry Eagle is being passed by the UIM open boats.
Motorsports, problems don't fix themselves.
Out in front, victory is almost assured for Pete Markey. When he crosses the red buoy, it'll be Little Ceasars the winner. This man got into the sport because he was getting too many speeding tickets in his Lamborghini.
And at the line, it's RDS for second place, giving the V-Hulls a 1-2 finish.
Pete Markey, who loves speed, has suddenly slowed so he can savor his victory. And in third, limping in, the boat that led for 90 miles, the Gentry Eagle. The champions, Little Ceasars. We'll be back.
It's a Radio Shack.
For the Superboats, the '89 world champion is Little Ceasars, while '88 winner Don Johnson's Team USA, alongside the Trump Princess, awaits its next opportunity to rule the waves. The time for conquest is now in the UIM Open class, and it will go to Gancia de Gancia with the talented throttleman Stefano Casaraghi. His team won it all in Europe, and now they've come to the USA for the World Championship. But another national champion could only limp home.
Charlie pretty much had it your way most of the race. What happened?
We blew a drive on the last lap, and then we got up beyond turn 2 and blew an engine. So, you know, you win some, you lose some.
Steve Baldwin's RDS almost won this one.
Little Ceasars earned what he got today. He ran all season long and had never finished first, and today was just his day.
When you come to a race like here in Atlantic City, I was glad to hop on the plane because I knew we'd be beaten up physically and the boat would go through the water.
Good idea. How about a round of applause for the champion?
In the Superboat class, a single point determined the championship. In the open class, a tie. The winner determined by overall average speed.
This little old defeat just makes the next victory that much sweeter.
Putting it all together, that's the secret at winning an offshore powerboat racing, and that's the story from here. For Tom Sneva, I'm Greg Lewis. Goodbye from Atlantic City.